Hello class. In this lecture I will be talking about hypothesis testing. So the first thing is, what is hypothesis testing or a hypothesis? So hypothesis, the meaning of hypothesis is a proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence and needs further investigation. So an example for hypothesis testing would be global warming. So the hypothesis means we have an idea about something, about a concept, but we needs to investigate it further. So in the case of global warming, we have studies that claim global warming is real, and we have studies that claim it is not real. So it's up to the statistician to collect data and make an intuitive analysis decision based on analysis. So this is it real? So the second example would be uh, McDonald's claims that its service time is less than 5 minutes. Again, you need to do analysis, collect data to see if it is less than 5 minutes or not. So that is mostly hypothesis. So in hypothesis testing, we have several steps how to do it. I will discuss those steps here. So the first step of a hypothesis testing is to define your hypothesis. So this is done as H null. So the first, this is called null hypothesis. So the meaning of null hypothesis is mostly no change happened, or nothing new is happening, or old phenomenon, or the idea which has already existed is true. And then alternatively, so there will be H alternative, which is alternative hypothesis. So this is new theory, or something new is happening. So an example would be, for example, we said in this example that McDonald's claims that it takes less than 5 minutes. So our null hypothesis would be less than 5 minutes. Alternatively, it can take more than 5 minutes. So that's what we are kind of writing about in null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So the next step of hypothesis testing is conduct test statistic and compare it with critical value. So in this case, if we take this case, the test statistic we have for mean two test statistics. So one is z, so the z stat, the formula would be x bar minus mu over sigma over root n. So we discussed previously when to use z stat. So z stat is used when population standard deviation or variance is known, and then n is greater than or equal to 30. So we use this test statistic and compare it with critical value. So the critical value for z, if we have two kinds of problems, two tail and one tail. So a two tail is we are evaluating on both sides of a normal distribution curve, both sides of normal distribution of a normal curve. This is one side, so we are evaluating only on one side of normal curve. So for z, this will be, if we are doing two sides, it's z alpha over 2. If we are doing one side, it is z alpha. So we take, what we do is we take this z value and compare with either this one if it is a two tail problem, or compare with z alpha if it is a one tail problem. So for mean, there is another stat which is t. The formula would be x bar minus mu s over root n, and this is used when sigma is unknown and n is less than 30. Again, for this you will be using t formula, which is t alpha over 2. Again, you are evaluating on both sides, that's why alpha over 2 with degree of freedom n minus 1, and then this is t alpha n minus 1. And finally, the test statistic maybe for proportions. So I will do somewhere here, I'll go down. For proportions, the test statistic would be proportions. We use z, which is p hat minus p over square root of p1 minus p over n. So the square root is for the entire stuff. So we take this again z, because this is z, we for two tail we'll use z alpha over 2, for one tail we will use z alpha. So we are comparing this z value with z alpha over 2 if it is a two tail proportion problem, and if it is a one tail proportion problem we will compare with z alpha, and then finally we will make conclusion. So the last step of our hypothesis testing would be conclusion. So at this time I kind of discussed this concept about hypothesis testing and the steps in hypothesis testing. I will conclude my lecture here, but I will kind of discuss in my next lectures when to use a two tail and when to use one tail, and we will try to solve z-stat problems, t-stat problems and proportion problems. Thank you.